Andrew Callahan's hands trembled as he buttoned his shirt collar. The mirror reflected a face he barely recognized: hollowed cheeks, dark circles, 3-day stubble. At 39, he looked a decade older than a year ago. Dad, Ivy's voice called from the hallway. Are you ready? Grandma says we need to leave in 5 minutes. Almost ready, sweetheart. His 10-year-old daughter appeared in the doorway dressed in her navy blue skirt and white blouse, clothes they picked together for important occasions. Her dark hair was neatly braided, his mother Charlene's handiwork. You look nice, Andrew said, forcing a smile. Ivy studied him with a seriousness no child should bear. It's today when we find out if we stay with you or go with Mom. Andrew knelt to eye level. The judge will hear everything today, but she might not decide right away. Whatever happens, I'm fighting for you and Lyndon. You know that, right? Ivy nodded. Mom says you see not afford us anymore. The word stung. That's not true. We might not have a big house or fancy stuff, but we have enough. I miss the old house. I know, kiddo. I do too. 7-year-old Lyndon arrived, his shirt half untucked, cowlick sticking straight up despite obvious attempts to tame it. Grandma says we're going to be late and the judge will be mad, he announced, fidgeting with something in his pocket. Andrew noticed. What do you got there, bud? Lyndon glanced toward the hallway, then stepped closer. I found something in Mom's safe when I was looking for my baseball cards. He pulled out a folded paper. It's a letter with Mom's name. Should I take it? Andrew hesitated. Why did you take it? The boy looked down. Mom and Bryce were talking about hiding money from you. They did not know I was listening, and I remembered seeing Mom putting papers in her safe. A cold rush of clarity washed over Andrew. He carefully read the contents, heart hammering. Dad? Is it bad? Lyndon asked. Andrew refolded the paper. It's important. Thank you for showing me. He handed it back. Put this in your pocket. If you think the judge should see it, you can show her. Andrew, kids, we need to go. Charlene's voice boomed from the living room. Andrew straightened Lyndon's collar, smoothed his hair, and took one last look in the mirror. The face staring back had changed. There was a glint in his eyes that had not been there in months. The Boise family court building loomed like a monument to broken promises. Andrew had never imagined spending so many hours in these sterile hallways, fighting for the right to raise his own children. Charlene squeezed his arm. Remember, do not let that snake hatch or get under your skin. The more he pushes, the quieter you get. Andrew nodded. His mother, a retired trucker with hands calloused from 40 years on the road, had weathered her own storms, including raising him alone after his father left. In the courtroom. Andrew spotted Marissa immediately. Her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. Her navy pantsuit probably costing more than his monthly rent. Beside her sat Bryce Maddox, tanned and polished in a tailored suit, his arm draped possessively around Marissa's shoulders. Anger flared hot in Andrew's chest, but he focused instead on guiding Ivy and Lyndon to their seats, refusing to look Marissa's way. Judge Belinda Carr, a woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair cut in a severe bob, entered the courtroom. We're here to continue custody proceedings for the minor children. Ivy and Lyndon Callahan, she stated. Mr. Hatcher, you may proceed. Miles Hatcher rose from his seat, straightening his silk tie. Everything about the man screamed expensive, from his Italian shoes to his perfectly manicured nails. Thank you, Your Honor. Hatcher began smoothly. As the court is aware, my client, Ms. Keller, is seeking primary physical custody with limited visitation for their father. Andrew clenched his jaw as Hatcher approached the center of the courtroom. The facts are clear. Since the separation, Mr. Callahan has been living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood with a significantly higher crime rate. He works irregular hours at his auto repair shop, often leaving the children in the care of his elderly mother. Charlene huffed beside Andrew. In contrast, Ms. Keller has maintained a stable home environment with a flexible work schedule and financial resources to provide the lifestyle they've been accustomed to. Her partner, Mr. Maddox, owns a successful business and has expressed willingness to support the family. Hatcher paced dramatically. Furthermore, Mr. Callahan's financial situation has deteriorated significantly. He's behind on child support, has accumulated substantial debt, and appears unable to manage his finances responsibly. Andrew's lawyer, Patricia Wells, a plain-speaking woman he could barely afford, touched his arm and warning. Do not react. We believe Mr. Callahan's financial instability creates an untenable situation. These children deserve consistency, security, and resources that Ms. Keller can provide. Andrew stared straight ahead, seeing Marissa lean in a Bryce with a small smile. We asked the court to grant primary physical custody to Ms. Keller, with Mr. Callahan receiving visitation every other weekend and one evening per week, Hatcher concluded. Judge Carr turned toward Andrew's table. Ms. Wells, your response? Patricia stood, straightening her modest blazer. Your Honor, we disagree with Mr. Hatcher's characterization of my client's circumstances and abilities as a father. Andrew half listened as Patricia outlined his case, his flexible hours as shop owner, the children's established routines, his mother's involvement as a loving grandparent rather than a last resort babysitter. But a small tug on his sleeve pulled Andrew from his thoughts. Lyndon leaned in, whispering, Daddy, should I show the letter? Andrew hesitated, then gave a slight nod. Lyndon stood up suddenly, interrupting Patricia mid-sentence. Excuse me, young man, Judge Carr said, peering over her glasses. What are you doing? Lyndon flinched but stepped forward. I have something important, ma'am. I mean, Your Honor, it's a letter I found in my mommy's safe. The courtroom fell silent. Marissa straightened, expression shifting from confusion to alarm. Lyndon, sit down, she hissed across the aisle. Judge Carr held up her hand. Ms. Keller, please. She turned to Lyndon. Would you like me to read this letter? Lyndon nodded, approaching with a folded paper. I think it's about money and stuff. The judge read carefully, her expression changing from neutral to shocked, then deeply troubled. Andrew watched Marissa's face drain of color. Beside her, Bryce shifted uncomfortably, whispering in her ear. Judge Carr looked up. Ms. Keller, are you familiar with this document? Marissa stood shakily. Your Honor, I do not know what that is, but my son should not be going through my personal papers. It appears to be in your handwriting. The judge continued, and contains disturbing admissions regarding the financial circumstances of your divorce. Hatcher jumped to his feet. Your Honor, we have not had an opportunity to review this document. We request a recess. The judge cut him off. Mr. Hatcher, this letter appears to be a detailed confession written by your client, admitting to deliberately hiding assets, fabricating debt in Mr. Callahan's name, and systematically draining joint accounts prior to filing for divorce. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Andrew felt a strange calm wash over him as Marissa's carefully constructed narrative began to crumble. Judge Carr's gavel came down sharply. These proceedings are suspended immediately pending a full financial investigation. She addressed the court clerk. I want the financial disclosure forms from both parties pulled for review, and I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Marissa slumped back, face ashened. Bryce stared stonily ahead, a muscle twitching in his jaw. We will reconvene when the financial investigation is complete, Judge Carr announced. In the meantime, the temporary custody arrangement will remain in place. Court is adjourned. As the gavel fell again, Andrew felt Ivy's small hand slip into his. Did we win? She whispered. Andrew squeezed her hand. Not yet, but we've got a fighting chance now. Across the aisle, Marissa's eyes locked with his furious panic. And for the first time, afraid, the apartment was quiet after Charlene took the kids for ice cream. Andrew stood at the kitchen window, nursing a beer and watching the sunset paint the parking lot in shades of orange and purple that a year ago he would have been watching the same sunset from the back deck of his house. The house he and Marissa had bought together when Ivy was just a baby. The house he'd spent weekends fixing up, installing the tire swing, building the treehouse that Lyndon had barely gotten to use. Andrew took another swig. Memories washing over him in painful waves. You never going to be more than this, are you? Marissa had asked one night after the kids were in bed. More than what? More than this. A guy who fixes cars, living in the same town, doing the same thing year after year. The contempt in her voice had blindsided him. I want to shop, Marissa. It's a good business. It supports our family. Barely. She scoffed. Do you know what Elaine Porter's husband bought her for their anniversary? A vacation home in McCall. A whole second house, Andrew. We not the Porters, he said, keeping his voice level. Besides, Dave Porter works 80 hours a week and hardly sees his kids. At least his kids go to private school and have college funds. The argument had continued. One of many that revealed the growing chasm between them. Marissa wanted status, luxury, a different life than the one they built together. And apparently she found someone willing to provide it. Andrew had discovered the affair almost by accident. A text message preview while she was in the shower. A quick check of the phone bill showing hundreds of texts to the same number. The credit card statement with charges at restaurants and hotels he never visited. When confronted, Marissa had not even tried to deny it. Price understands ambition, she said. He sees my potential. Andrew set his empty bottle on the counter harder than intended. The hollow sound echoed through the empty apartment, amplifying his solitude. The worst part had not been the affair, though, that cut deep enough. It was how quickly Marissa had weaponized the children, telling them Daddy could not afford their activities anymore, that they'd have to live with her because she could take better care of them. His phone buzzed with a text from Charlene. Kids having second ice cream. Home in 30. You okay? Andrew typed back. I'm fine. Take your time. But he was not fine. The rage he'd been suppressing all day began to surface, burning in his chest. He tried to handle this divorce with dignity to shield the kids from the ugliness. He gritted his teeth through Marissa's lies, her manipulation of the children, her attempts to paint him as a failure. The letter Lyndon had found changed everything. It was proof of what Andrew had suspected for months, that Marissa had been planning her exit strategy long before she actually left, systematically dismantling their financial foundation to leave him struggling. Andrew moved to the small desk in the corner and pulled on notepad. If Marissa wanted war, he would give her one. But unlike her, he would fight with truth and evidence, not lies and manipulation. Not to the top of the page. He wrote the plan and began listing names. Wesley McCoy, his former accountant who knew their finances inside and out. Taryn, his sister who worked as an ER nurse and could help with the kids. Inez Dawson, the persistent local journalist who'd been trying to get dirt on Bryce Maddox's business dealings for months. That be why the time he heard Charlene's key in a lock and the excited voices of Ivy and Lyndon. Andrew had filled 3 pages with notes. The hollow feeling in his chest had been replaced by purpose and the beginning of something that almost felt like hope. Lyndon burst through the door first, face smeared with chocolate. Dad, Grandma let us get double scoops and I got chocolate and cookie dough. Ivy followed, more restrained but with a smile that had been rare lately. The ice cream shop guy gave us extra sprinkles because we were celebrating. Andrew knelt and opened his arms, gathering both children close. Over their heads he met his mother's knowing gaze. You got a plan? Charlene asked, seeing the notepad on the desk. Andrew nodded. I'm done letting her write our story. Charlene's weathered face split into a grim smile. About damn time. The morning light slanted through the blinds as Andrew hunched over his coffee, reviewing his notes. His cell phone screen showed 5:47 a.m. Too early to make calls. But his mind had been racing since 4:30. The kids were still asleep. Their school day not starting for another 2 hours. Andrew savored the quiet, knowing once they woke, the morning would become a whirlwind of breakfast, backpacks, and last-minute homework checks. His phone buzzed with a text message. Judge put freeze on accounts. What did you do? Morris. Andrew set the phone down without responding. Let her sweat. The court's financial investigation would take time, but the judge's immediate action spoke volumes about how damning that letter had been. He sipped his coffee and added another name to his list, Officer Jonah Vance. They were not friends exactly, but Vance brought his patrol car to Andrew's shop for maintenance and they developed a respectful acquaintance. If Marissa tried anything underhanded, and Andrew was certain she would, having a contact in the police department might prove useful. After dropping the kids at school, Andrew drove directly to Timberline Accounting, where Wesley McCoy had worked since leaving his previous firm. They lost touch after Wes had helped Andrew set up the bookkeeping system for his auto shop years ago. But Andrew remembered him as thorough and uncompromising, exactly what he needed now. The accounting firm occupied the second floor of a modest office building. Andrew found Wes in a corner office surrounded by stacks of folders and multiple computer monitors. Andy Callahan, Wes said, genuine surprise in his voice as he stood to shake Andrew's hand. What brings you to my humble tax dungeon? Wesley had not changed much, still lanky and slightly rumpled with wire-rimmed glasses and an expression of perpetual curiosity. I need help. Wes, Andrew said, settling into the chair across from the desk. Financial forensics, I guess you call it. Wes's eyebrows rose. Sounds serious. What's going on? Andrew explained the situation: the divorce, Marissa's relationship with Bryce, the custody battle, and finally the letter Lyndon had found. She actually wrote it down. Wes asked incredulously that she was hiding assets and creating fake debt in your name. Some kind of confession or reminder to herself, Andrew confirmed, maybe trying to keep her story straight. The judge has it now and she's ordered a financial investigation. Wes whistled low. That's remarkably stupid of her, but helpful for you. He leaned forward. So what do you need from me? I need to know exactly what she did, how much she took, and if possible, where the money went. The court will investigate, but I do not trust the system to be thorough enough. I need my own evidence. What about your divorce attorney? Andrew grimaced. She is competent, but overworked. I'm paying her an installment as it is. Understanding dawned on Wes's face. Ah, the financial sabotage hit you hard. I'm barely keeping the shop open, Andrew admitted. I had to let go of my only full-time mechanic. I'm working open to close 6 days a week just to cover rent and child support. Wes tapped his pen against his desk, thinking, I need access to your accounts, tax returns, loan documents, everything financial from the last few years. I brought what I have, Andrew said, pulling a thumb drive from his pocket. But Marissa handled a lot of our financial paperwork. She said it made sense since her real estate work gave her a better understanding of that stuff. Wes snorted. Convenient. He took the thumb drive. I CA not promise anything, but I'll dig into this tonight. My billing rate is... I CA not pay you much right now, Andrew interrupted. I'll understand if you CA not help. Wes studied him for a moment, then sighed. Remember that '68 Mustang you restored for me 5 years ago? The one that should have cost twice what you charged me. Andrew nodded. Consider this partial repayment. We'll figure out the rest later. Relief washed over Andrew. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Wes cautioned. This could get ugly. If your ex-wife did what you suspect, there may be legal implications beyond your divorce. I'm counting on it. Andrew said, his voice hardening. I do not just want my kids and my money back. I want justice. The auto shop was quiet when Andrew arrived, too quiet. With only part-time help now, he had to reduce the number of cars they serviced, and it showed in the half-empty bays. The bell over the door jingled around noon. Andrew wiped his hands on a shop rag and stepped into the reception area to find his sister, Taryn, still in her scrubs from the hospital. I brought lunch, she announced, holding up a paper bag. And do not say you re too busy. I called ahead and your next appointment is not until 2. Despite himself, Andrew smiled. Taryn had always been the one person who could bulldoze through his stubborn independence. How do you know I had not eaten? He asked, clearing space on the cluttered desk. Because I know you, she said simply, unpacking sandwiches and water. Mom told me about court yesterday. Why did not you call me? Andrew unwrapped his sandwich, turkey and Swiss's favorite. Everything happened fast and you were working a double shift. I always have time for family emergencies, Taryn said firmly. At 35, she was 4 years younger than Andrew but often acted like the older sibling. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail and faint lines had begun forming around her eyes from years of night shifts. It was not exactly an emergency, Andrew said between bites. More like a turning point. Mom says you re-fighting back finally. About time. Andrew nodded. I saw Wes McCoy this morning. He's going to trace the money trail. Good. Taryn took a sip of water. What can I do? You already stretched thin at the hospital. Do not change the subject. How can I help? Andrew hesitated. I might need more help with the kids. If things get ugly, and I think they will, Marissa might try to interfere with my visitation schedule. I need someone the kids trust who can step in if I have to work late or deal with court stuff. Done. Taryn said without hesitation. My schedule is crazy but predictable. I'll give you my shift for the next month. And we can coordinate. I CA not ask you to. You did not ask, I offered. It's not just for you. It's for Ivy and Lyndon. Her expression softened. They've been through enough already. They need stability. Andrew felt a surge of gratitude for his sister who had never married or had children of her own but loved his kids fiercely. There's something else, he said, lowering his voice even though they were alone. I have a feeling Marissa might try something desperate now that the judge knows about the financial stuff. She's always been good at playing the victim. Taryn's eyes narrowed. What kind of something? I do not know exactly. But Bryce has a temper and Marissa's got a flair for drama. Just be alert when you with the kids, okay? Always, Taryn promised. After she left, Andrew returned to work but his mind kept wandering to Wes and what he might find. It was nearly closing time when a cell finally buzzed with Wes's number. Tell me you found something. Andrew said by way of greeting. Oh, I found something all right. Wes replied, his voice tight with barely contained anger. Can you come to my office? You need to see this in person. I have to pick up the kids from after-school care by 6. This CA not wait, Andy. And trust me, you're going to want to see this with your own eyes. Something in Wes's tone sent a chill down Andrew's spine. I'll call my mom to get the kids. I'll be there in 20 minutes. 30 minutes later, he was back in Wes's office watching as the accountant pulled up documents on his computer. I started with the basic stuff. Wes explained, glasses reflecting the screen's glow. Tax returns, bank statements, mortgage documents. Nothing unusual jumped out at first. But then I got curious about the timing. You said Marissa left about 8 months ago, but the financial problems started before that, right? Andrew nodded. Maybe a year before she actually moved out. Suddenly we were always short on money. Bills were late. My credit score tanked. Exactly. Wes said, pointing at the screen. Look at these credit card statements. See these cash advances? 10,000 here, 15,000 there. All in the 6 months before she left you. Andrew squinted at the screen. Those were not our usual cards. No, they were new accounts opened in your name, but with electronic statements sent to an email address you do not use. Wes clicked to another screen. And here's where it gets interesting. Those cash advances? The money did not stay in your joint accounts. It was transferred out within days. To where? Someone to accounts I have not been able to trace yet. But a significant amount went here. Wes pointed to a series of transfers. To Flex Fitness LLC. Andrew's blood ran cold. Price's gym. Bingo. Wes leaned back in his chair. Expression grim. Your wife was not just leaving you for this guy. She was financing his business with your credit. The implications hit Andrew hard. So the affair probably started even earlier than you thought. Wes confirmed. Based on these transactions, I guess at least 18 months ago. Andrew's mind reeled, recalculating the timeline. 18 months ago, they'd still been planning family vacations, discussing renovating the kitchen, talking about maybe try for a third child. All eyes. There's more. Wes continued, clicking through screens. I found evidence of a second mortgage taken out on your house 6 months before she filed for divorce. The paperwork has your signature on it. I never signed a second mortgage. I figured as much. The signature looks similar to yours but not exact, like someone was trying to copy it. Forgery. The word hung unspoken between them. Can you prove it? Andrew asked, his voice tight. Not definitively. Not by myself. But a forensic handwriting expert could. Wes tapped his fingers against the desk. The court's financial investigation will probably catch most of this, but they might not connect all the dots unless they specifically looking for fraud. And the connection to Bryce's gym. That's where it gets murky. Wes admitted. On paper, the transfers to Flex Fitness look like investments. Marissa could claim you agreed to invest in the business. Andrew's frustration mounted. So even with all this evidence, she could still wriggle out of it. Maybe not. That's why we need to dig deeper. Wes adjusted his glasses. Specifically, we need to look into Flex Fitness's books. If the money trail continues there, we might find something that even Marissa not explain away. How do we get access to his business records? Wes grimaced. That's the part one have not figured out yet. Without a court order or cooperation from someone inside the business, it would be nearly impossible. Andrew stared at the financial records on the screen. The evidence of betrayal laid out in cold numbers. An idea began to form. I might know someone who could help. He said slowly. A journalist who's been investigating Bryce's gym for months. She thinks he's involved in something shady. A journalist. Wes looked skeptical. That's a risky move, Andy. Once you involve the press, you lose control of the narrative. Maybe that's exactly what we need, Andrew countered. The court's investigation will be private, but if there's public pressure too, Wes considered this. Just be careful. Marissa's already shown she's willing to play dirty. If you push her too far, there's no telling what she might do. As if on cue, Andrew's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. This is Bryce. Back off with the financial investigation or things will get worse for you and the kids. Last warning. Andrew showed the message to Wes, whose eyebrows shot up. Did this guy seriously just threaten you via text? That's not smart. Smart is not his strong suit. Andrew said grimly, saving the message. But now we know they were scared. Scared people are dangerous, Wes warned. Andrew pocketed his phone, determination hardening inside him. So am I. The next morning, Andrew dropped the kids at school and drove directly to the offices of the Boise Herald. Enes Dawson had been a regular at his auto shop for years. Always chatting about local politics and business dealings while her ancient Volvo was serviced, he found her at a cluttered desk in the corner of the newspaper's open office space, squinting at her computer screen through tortoise-shell reading glasses. At 50-something, Enes had the sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor of someone who spent decades chasing stories no one else wanted to touch. Andrew Callahan, she said surprised. Do not tell me my car is dead again. Your car is fine. He assured her, taking the chair beside her desk. I need to talk to you about something else, about Bryce Maddox and Flex Fitness. Anna's expression shifted instantly from friendly to intensely focused. She glanced around the office, then lowered her voice. What about him? You've been investigating him, right? I've heard you mention it during oil changes. Anna's nodded slowly. For about 6 months now. Nothing concrete enough to publish yet. What do you suspect him of? She studied Andrew carefully. Why the sudden interest? Andrew hesitated, then decided on honesty. He is involved with my ex-wife. And I have evidence they may have committed financial fraud using my identity. Anna's leaned back in her chair. The plot thickens. I thought it was just money laundering. Money laundering. Andrew echoed. Anna's nodded. Flex Fitness' books do not add up. The membership numbers they claim do not match the traffic I've observed. They reporting revenue that not possibly be coming from legitimate gym memberships or personal training. Where do you think it is coming from? Anna shrugged. That is the missing piece. I have a theory it is connected to some of the local drug traffic, but no evidence yet. Andrew's mind raced. If Bryce was involved in money laundering and Marissa had funneled Andrew's money into the business, I might have some financial records that could help you. He said carefully, evidence of money moving from my accounts to Flex Fitness through my ex-wife. Anna's eyes lit up with journalistic interest. That could be the missing link I've been looking for. She leaned forward. But I have to ask, what's her angle here? Revenge on the ex? Taking down her boyfriend? I want custody of my kids. Andrew said simply, and I want back what was stolen from me. If your investigation helps accomplish that, all the better. Anna's considered this. Fair enough. But you should know, if I find a real story here, I'm publishing it regardless of how it affected a divorce case. That is my job. I understand. Good. Anna's pulled out a notebook. Let's start at the beginning. Tell me everything you know about your ex-wife's involvement with Maddox and his business. For the next hour, Andrew laid out the timeline: Marissa's growing dissatisfaction, the affair with Bryce, the strange financial issues, and finally Wes's discoveries. Anna's took meticulous notes, occasionally stopping him to clarify details or ask follow-up questions. This is a solid lead, she said, finally tapping her pen against the notebook. But I'll need to see those financial records your accountant friend found. I'll have Wes compile them for you, Andrew promised. In the meantime, is there anything you can tell me about Bryce's business that might help my case? Anna's hesitated. Nothing I can prove yet. But there are rumors that some of his clients are not there for the gym equipment, if you know what I mean. Drug deals, among other things. Anna's lowered her voice further. Word is that some high-rolling gamblers use the gym as a meeting place. The private training rooms in the back are conveniently free of security cameras. Andrew processed this information. My kids have been in that building. Marissa takes them there when she is custody. Anna's expression softened slightly, the first crack in her professional demeanor. I'll keep that in mind as I investigate. And I'll be discreet about your involvement, at least for now. Thank you. As Andrew stood to leave, Anna's added, I should warn you, if Maddox is involved in what I think he has dangerous connections. Be careful. The custody hearing was scheduled for Friday afternoon. Andrew spent the morning at the shop trying to focus on a transmission rebuild. But his mind kept drifting to the upcoming confrontation. Wes had compiled the financial evidence into a comprehensive report for Andrew's lawyer. And Patricia Wells had sounded cautiously optimistic when they spoken the night before. The financial investigation is still ongoing, she told him. But the preliminary findings support your claims of identity theft and unauthorized transactions. The judge was already concerned after seeing that letter. This additional evidence will only strengthen our position. Now, as Andrew prepared to close the shop early for the hearing, his phone rang with Taryn's number. Hey, what's up? He answered, wedging the phone between his shoulder and ear as he locked the shop door. I just picked up the kids from school, Taryn said, voice tight with concern. Andrew, Ivy told me something you need to hear. I'm putting her on. Dad, I'm here, kiddo. What's going on? Mom said we might not see you for a while after today. Ivy said, her voice small. She said you'd be too busy with legal troubles and that we should not be sad about it because it's just temporary. Andrew's grip tightened on the phone. What did she say this? Last night, she was talking to Bryce, but I could hear them. She said something about making sure you could not interfere anymore. A cold dread settled in Andrew's stomach. Ivy, did Mom say anything else? Anything specific about these legal troubles? No, but she was packing a bag for us. She said we might need to go on a little trip after court today. Andrew's mind raced. Was Marissa planning to run with the kids if the hearing did not go her way? Ivy, you and Lyndon are going to stay with Aunt Taryn until the hearing, okay? I'll meet you at the courthouse. Are you mad? Not at you, sweetheart. Never at you. Andrew forced his voice to remain calm. Can you put Aunt Taryn back on? Once Taryn was back on the line, Andrew spoke quickly. Do not let Marissa near them before the hearing. I think she might be planning something. Like what? I do not know exactly, but I'm concerned about the timing and what Ivy overheard. Andrew ended the call and immediately dialed Officer Joan Evans but got voicemail. Frustrated, Andrew tried the non-emergency police line instead but was told that unless there was an active threat or court order being violated, this would be a civil matter. To be why the time Andrew arrived at the courthouse, his anxiety had peaked. He found Taryn and the kids waiting in the lobby. Lyndon playing a handheld game while Ivy sat quietly watching the doors. Hey guys, Andrew greeted them, kneeling to hug his children. Thanks for the heads up, Ivy. You did the right thing telling Aunt Taryn what you heard. Ivy nodded solemnly. Is Mom in trouble? That's for the judge to decide. Andrew said carefully. But no matter what happens today, I want you both to know that I'm fighting to keep our family together. Patricia Wells approached, looking more polished than usual in a charcoal suit. Andrew, we need to talk before we go in. He followed Patricia to a quiet corner of the lobby. I submitted the financial evidence to the judge this morning. She told him, her voice low. She was, let's just say, very interested. She also requested that both children speak privately in her chambers today. That's good, right? It could be, especially if they confirm what Ivy told you about Marissa's plans to take a trip. Patricia hesitated, but there's a complication. Marissa has filed an emergency motion alleging that you've been emotionally abusive and manipulating the children against her. Andrew's jaw tightened. That's ridiculous. Of course it is, Patricia agreed, but it's a common tactic: muddy the waters, create doubt. The good news is that the judge already has reasons to be skeptical of Marissa's credibility. What should I do? Stay calm. Let the evidence and the children speak for themselves. And whatever you do, do not react visibly to any accusations Marissa or her lawyer makes. That's exactly what they want. As the hearing time approached, Andrew spotted Marissa and Bryce entering the courthouse with Miles Hatcher. Marissa wore a cream-color dress that made her look younger and more vulnerable than her usual power suits, an obvious attempt to appear maternal and sympathetic. Their eyes met across the lobby. For a moment, Marissa's careful facade slipped, revealing a flash of pure hatred before she composed herself again. Bryce put a possessive arm around her shoulders, glaring at Andrew with unconcealed hostility. Inside the courtroom, Judge Carr entered, her expression giving nothing away as she settled behind the bench. Before we begin, the judge announced, I'd like to speak with the children privately. Bailiff, please escort Ivy and Lyndon Callahan to my chambers. As the children followed the bailiff through the side door, Andrew caught Ivy looking back at him, her eyes wide with uncertainty. He gave her an encouraging nod. While the court speaks with the minor children, Judge Carr continued, I'd like to address the financial investigation findings thus far. She shuffled through papers before her. The preliminary report from the court-appointed forensic accountant has uncovered significant evidence of financial impropriety, including unauthorized credit applications, forged signatures, and systematic fund transfers from joint accounts. Hatcher immediately stood. Your Honor, my client categorically denies any wrongdoing and suggests that Mr. Callahan might have orchestrated these transactions himself to cast suspicion on Ms. Keller. Judge Carr fixed Hatcher with a withering stare. Mr. Hatcher, the transactions in question occurred while the couple was still living together, with funds moving directly to businesses connected to Mr. Maddox. Are you suggesting Mr. Callahan secretly transferred his own money to his wife's paramour's business in order to frame her at some future date? Hatcher faltered. We're simply stating that there may be explanations that do not imply wrongdoing by my client. I'm sure there are. The judge replied dryly. Unfortunately, the letter found by the Callahan boy, which experts have confirmed was written by Ms. Keller, explicitly details her intentions regarding these exact financial maneuvers. Marissa's face had gone pale. Beside her, Bryce shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Furthermore, Judge Carr continued, Ms. Keller's emergency motion alleging emotional abuse by Mr. Callahan appears to be suspiciously timed and without substantiating evidence. This court does not look favorably on tactical filings designed to distract from the central issues. After about 20 minutes, the bailiff returned with Ivy and Lyndon, who were directed back to their seats. Andrew searched their faces for clues, but both children looked subdued and nervous. Having reviewed the evidence and spoken with the children, Judge Carr announced, "I'm prepared to issue a temporary ruling on custody while the investigation continues." The courtroom fell silent. Andrew held his breath. Given the substantial evidence of financial misconduct by Ms. Keller, her credibility with this court has been severely damaged. The children have expressed concerns about Ms. Keller's living situation and have indicated a preference to remain with their father. Judge Carr looked directly at Marissa. "Furthermore, I find Ms. Keller's apparent plans to take the children on a trip after today's hearing to be extremely concerning, especially in light of the ongoing investigation." Andrew felt a wave of relief wash over him. The judge continued, "Therefore, I am awarding temporary full physical custody to Mr. Callahan with Ms. Keller granted supervised visitation only to take place at the family court facility." Marissa let out a gasp of outrage. "You see, not do this. They re my children too." "Ms. Keller," the judge warned, "control yourself or you'll be held in contempt." Hatcher placed a restraining hand on Marissa's arm, whispering urgently in her ear. Additionally, Judge Carr continued, "I am issuing a temporary restraining order preventing Ms. Keller from removing the children from Ada County without court permission. Mr. Maddox is to have no contact with the minor children until further notice." Bryce stood abruptly. "This is bullshit. You see, not keep me from." "Bailiff," Judge Carr interrupted sharply. "Please remove Mr. Maddox from my courtroom." As the bailiff approached, Bryce glared at Andrew with undisguised malice before storming out on his own. Once court was adjourned, Andrew hugged Ivy and Lyndon tightly. "Looks like you guys are staying with me for a while," he told them, trying to keep his voice light despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him as they prepared to leave. Andrew noticed Marissa having a heated discussion with Hatcher in the corner of the courtroom. Patricia touched Andrew's arm. "Let us go. The less interaction with her right now, the better." Andrew nodded, guiding his children toward the exit. As they reached the door, he felt someone watching him. He turned to find Marissa staring at him, her expression a disturbing mix of rage and calculation. "This is not over." She smiled silently. Andrew turned away without responding. He knew she was right. This was far from over. But for the first time in months, he felt like he had a fighting chance. The sense of victory lasted exactly 3 days. Andrew was at the shop on Monday afternoon, replacing brake pads on a customer's SUV when his phone rang. It was Wes. "Have you seen the news?" Wes asked without preamble. "No, I've been under a car all day." "What's going on?" "Someone broke into my office last night. They took my computer and the external hard drive with all my case files, including everything I compiled on Marissa and Bryce." Andrew's stomach dropped. "Was anything else taken?" "Nothing. Just the computer and drives with client data. Police are calling it a targeted theft. It has to be Bryce," Andrew said, wiping his hands on a shop rack. "Yes, getting desperate. That's what I thought too." Wes agreed. "But I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I keep backups of everything in secure cloud storage. So we have not lost the evidence, and the bad news." Wes hesitated. "The break-in might be the least of our problems. I've been digging deeper into Flex Fitness's finances based on the information you gave me. And I found something concerning, more concerning than identity theft and fraud. Potentially, yes. There's a pattern in the cash flow that suggests classic money laundering, large cash deposits broken down into smaller transactions. Money moving through shell companies and coming back as investment returns or consulting fees." Andrew remembered what Inez had said about drug dealers and gamblers using the gym. "So Bryce is definitely laundering money." "It looks that way," Wes confirmed. "But here's where it gets complicated for you. Some of that laundered money appears to have been transferred into accounts with Marissa's name on them. And your name as well. On joint accounts that supposedly were closed during the divorce, but actually remained active." The implications hit Andrew like a sledgehammer. "Are you saying I could be implicated in money laundering?" "Possibly," Wes said grimly. "If Marissa was using your identity for legitimate financial transactions, she could have also been using it for illegitimate ones. Either way, you should probably talk to a criminal attorney just to be prepared." Before Andrew could respond, "You heard the shop's front doorbell jingle about a customer, Wes. I'll call you back." But when Andrew stepped into the reception area, he found not a customer, but Officer Jonah Vance, looking uncomfortable in his patrol uniform. "Officer Vance," Andrew greeted him cautiously. "What can I do for you?" Vance shifted his weight. "I'm here about a police report, Andrew. Your ex-wife came in this morning claiming you've been harassing her with threatening phone calls and messages." "That's ridiculous," Andrew said automatically. "I have not contacted her at all since the custody hearing." Vance nodded as if he expected this answer. "She showed us text messages from your number. Pretty nasty stuff, threats about exposing her, ruining her life, that kind of thing." "Those are not from me," Andrew insisted, cold dread settling in his gut. "She must have spoofed my number or something." Maybe Vance conceded, but she's filed a formal complaint. "So I have to follow up. Where were you last night between midnight and 2 a.m.? The question caught Andrew off guard. "At home, asleep. My kids were there too. They staying with me now." "Anyone else who can verify that? Anyone adult?" Andrew thought quickly. "My mom stopped by around 11 to drop off some groceries, but she did not stay." "Why? What happened last night?" Vance's expression grew more serious. "Someone vandalized your ex-wife's car, slashed the tires, broke the windows, spray painted some threats on it. She's claiming it was you." "That's insane," Andrew protested. "I was home with my kids all night. I would never do something like that." "I believe you," Vance said quietly, "but the department has to investigate. The messages came from your number, and there's a clear motive given the custody situation." Andrew ran a hand through his hair, mind racing. "This is a setup. First, Wes's office gets broken into, now this. They trying to discredit me before the final custody hearing." After Vance left, Andrew called Patricia immediately, explaining both the break-in at Wes's office and the false police report. "This is concerning, but not unexpected," Patricia said. "Marissa's losing control of the narrative. So she's trying to create a new one where you the villain. What do we do?" "Document everything. I'll file a counter-complaint about the false police report. In the meantime, do not go anywhere without a witness. If you have to work late at the shop, have your sister or mother stay with the kids. Do not give Marissa any opportunity to claim you've neglected them." Andrew agreed, but after hanging up, he could not shake the feeling that things were spiraling out of control. He had temporary custody of his children, but at what cost? If Marissa and Bryce were willing to stage crimes and file false reports, what else might they do? His phone buzzed with a text from Inez Dawson. "Need to talk ASAP. Found something big on Flex Fitness. Meet me at Carlos Coffee at 5 p.m. Inez and Drew texted back. "We'll be there." Inez was already there when he arrived. Her laptop opened in a half-empty coffee cup at her elbow. She looked up as Andrew approached, her expression both excited and concerned. "Thanks for coming," she said as he sat across from her. "I've been following the money trail from Flex Fitness, and I found connections to a known drug distributor operating out of Nampa. The gym appears to be a laundering operation for drug money." Wes found evidence of money laundering too, Andrew confirmed, but he could not identify the source. "Well, I did," Inez said grimly, "and it gets worse. Your ex-wife's name is all over these transactions as a signatory on accounts as the registered agent for shell companies. She's up to her neck in this." Andrew absorbed this information. Does she know what Bryce is really involved in? Hard to say for sure, but given her level of involvement in the paperwork, it's difficult to imagine she does not at least suspect. Inez leaned forward. "Andrew, I'm ready to publish this story. I have enough evidence to connect Flex Fitness to money laundering, though the drug connection is still circumstantial. But before I do, I want to make sure you understand the potential blowback." "What do you mean?" "Once this goes public, all hell will break loose. The police will have to investigate. Bryce will almost certainly face charges and Marissa could too, depending on what she knew, and when your kids will be caught in the middle of a very public scandal." Andrew had not considered this angle. His children had already endured so much: their parents' divorce, the custody battle, moving homes. How would they handle seeing their mother's name in a newspaper, possibly connected to criminal charges? "When are you planning to publish?" he asked finally. Friday's edition, Inez replied. My editor has already approved it. But I could hold it if you think it would harm your children. Andrew weighed his options. Exposing Bryce's criminal activities would almost certainly help his custody case. But at what emotional cost to Ivy and Lyndon? I need to think about this, he said finally. Can you give me until tomorrow to decide? Inez nodded. That's fair. Just let me know by noon tomorrow. After that, the story goes to print regardless. As Andrew left the cafe, his phone rang again. Taryn's number. Hey, I'm just leaving the meeting now, he answered. Everything okay with the kids? Taryn's voice came through tight with tension. Andrew, someone just tried to break into your apartment while we were here. Andrew's blood ran cold. What? Are you and the kids okay? We're fine, Taryn assured him. I heard someone trying the door, then attempting to pick the lock. I called 911, and they ran off when they heard me on the phone. The police are there now. Yes, taking a report. But Andy, this is getting scary. First, the false police report against you. Now this I'm coming home now, Andrew said, already heading for his truck. Do not let the kids out of your sight. Andrew's mind raced as he drove the break-in at Wes's office. The vandalism of Marissa's car falsely blamed on him. And now an attempted break-in at his apartment where his children are staying. The pattern was clear. Marissa and Bryce were escalating, becoming more desperate and dangerous. Yes, he pulled into his apartment complex. Andrew's spot of the police car still parked outside his building. Officer Vance stood talking to Taryn at the door while Ivy and Lyndon peered anxiously from the window. Vance turned as Andrew approached. Quite a coincidence, is not it? First, your accountant's office. Now your apartment. This is not a coincidence, Andrew said firmly. This is harassment, and it's putting my children in danger. Vance nodded gravely. The timing certainly suggests a connection. We'll increase patrols in this area, but I recommend additional security measures. Maybe stay somewhere else for a few days. I'm not running, Andrew said, and I'm not disrupting my kids' lives again. They've been through enough. After Vance left with the promise to file a comprehensive report, Andrew gathered Ivy and Lyndon in the living room. Are the bad guys going to come back? Lyndon asked, his voice small that Andrew's heart broke at the fear in his son's eyes. No, buddy, the police are watching our building now, and we're going to be extra careful. Was it Mom? Ivy asked bluntly. Was she trying to take us? The question stunned Andrew. Why would you think that? Ivy looked down at her hands. She told us last week that we'd be going on a trip soon even if the judge said no. She said sometimes adults have to break rules to do what's right. Anger flared in Andrew's chest, not just at Marissa's manipulation, but at the fear she instilled in their children. Listen to me, both of you, he said firmly. You're safe here with me. No one is taking you anywhere without permission from the judge. And I promise I will not let anyone hurt you or scare you. That night, Andrew's phone buzzed with a text from Wes. Call me ASAP. Found the missing link in the money trail. Andrew stepped onto the balcony to make the call. Remember those ledgers I could not access before? Wes said when he answered. I finally cracked the password. And Andrew, you're not going to believe what I found. Try me. Andrew said grimly. Bryce has been setting Marissa up as the fall guy all along. Wes explained every illegal transaction, every shell company, every connection to the drug money he's put all in her name. There's a second set of books showing she signed as the legal responsible party for all of it. Does she know? Hard to say. The signatures look legitimate, but given how she's forged yours in the past, it's possible she did not read everything she was signing. Andrew absorbed this information. So if the police investigate, Marissa takes the fall while Bryce walks away clean. Wes finished. Classic setup. A cold clarity settled over Andrew. Marissa had betrayed him, stolen from him, tried to take his children, but even she did not deserve to be framed for Bryce's crimes. Not that she warranted his protection after what she'd done, but Andrew could not help but wonder if she knew the depth of Bryce's betrayal. Send me copies of everything. Andrew decided. I need to show this to Inez Dawson, the reporter. Are you sure that's wise? Her story goes to print on Friday. The truth needs to come out, all of it. After ending the call with Wes, Andrew stared out at the night sky, weighing his next move. The evidence Wes had found would likely destroy Marissa's life if it became public. Part of him, the part still raw with betrayal, felt she deserved it, but another part remembered the woman she'd been before, the mother of his children, the person he'd once loved enough to build a life with. Warning her about Bryce's betrayal would not undo the harm she'd done, but it might prevent an even greater tragedy. Andrew took out his phone and typed a message to Marissa. We need to talk, not about the kids or the divorce, about Bryce and what he's really involved in. Meet me at the park by the old house tomorrow at noon. Come alone. That he hesitated before hitting send, wondering if he was making a mistake. But the memory of Ivy's fearful question, was it Mom, made the decision for him. Whatever happened next, his children deserved to know he'd try to protect both their parents, even after everything. Andrew pressed send, then went back inside to where Taryn was making up the couch as a bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, at least, his children were safe. The park near Andrew and Marissa's old house was quiet at noon on a Tuesday. A few mothers with toddlers clustered around the play structure, and an elderly man walked a corgi along the perimeter path. Andrew sat on a bench near the pond, watching ducks glide across the water surface. He'd arrived early to scope out the location, half expecting Marissa to bring Bryce despite his instructions to come along. But as the minutes ticked by, he began to wonder if she would show at all. At 12:15, just as Andrew was about to give up, he spotted her walking across the grass. She wore sunglasses and a baseball cap pulled low, clearly trying to avoid being recognized. Her steps were hesitant, her body language cautious. She stopped a few feet from the bench. What's this about, Andrew? I'm taking a risk being here. Sit down, he said, keeping his voice neutral. What I have to tell you is not something you want to hear standing up. Marissa hesitated, then reluctantly sat at the opposite end of the bench. If this is some kind of trick, it's not a trick, Andrew interrupted. It's about Bryce's business dealings and how he's been using you. Using me? Marissa scoffed. You're the one who's been sneaking around, having your accountant friend break into private records. Wes did not break into anything. He followed the money trail, money that you stole from me, by the way. Andrew kept his voice low, conscious of the family's nearby. But that's not why I asked you here. He pulled a folder from his jacket and placed it on the bench between them. These are copies of documents showing that Bryce has been running a money laundering operation through his gym. Drug money, Marissa. And guess whose signature is on all the legal paperwork as the responsible party? Not as yours. Marissa's face paled behind her sunglasses. That's ridiculous. I signed some investment documents for the gym, but nothing illegal. Did you read what you were signing? Andrew pushed the folder toward her. Or what, did you just trust him? The way you clearly did not trust me. Marissa hesitated, then took the folder and began scanning the contents. As she read, her posture changed, shoulders hunching, hand rising to cover her mouth. This not be right. She whispered. It's right. Andrew confirmed. Bryce has been using the gym to clean money for drug dealers. And he set you up to take the fall if it all comes crashing down. Why are you showing me this? Marissa asked, her voice suddenly small. You hate me. You should want me to go down for this. Andrew took a deep breath. I do not hate you, Marissa. I hate what you did to us, to our family. But you're still the mother of my children, and they need you to not be imprisoned for crimes you did not commit. Marissa's hand trembled as she closed the folder. What am I supposed to do with this information? If what you're saying is true, I'm already implicated. Go to the police. Andrew suggested. Turn state's evidence against Bryce and his associates. You made bad choices, but you can still choose to do the right thing now. You do not understand. Marissa said, real fear creeping into her voice. Bryce knows people, dangerous people. If I turn on him, if you do not, you'll take the fall when this all comes out. Andrew countered, and is coming out. Marissa, a reporter from the Herald, has been investigating Flex Fitness for months. She's publishing her findings on Friday. Marissa removed her sunglasses, revealing reddened eyes. Is that why you re-warning me? Because it's going to be public anyway. I'm warning you because our children deserve to have both parents in their lives. Andrew said firmly, even after everything you've done, I would not wish what Bryce is setting you up for on anyone. For a long moment, Marissa was silent, staring down at the folder in her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, stripped of its usual defensive edge. You know what the saddest part is? I actually thought he loved me. I thought I'd finally found someone who saw me as special, who wanted the same things I did. She gave a bitter laugh. Turns out he just wanted a convenient name to put on paperwork. Andrew felt an unwelcome twinge of sympathy. You have until Friday to decide what to do. After that, it's out of my hands. Marissa stood abruptly. I need to think. She hesitated, then added, the kids, are they okay? They re-scared, Andrew said honestly. Someone tried to break into the apartment yesterday while they were there with Taryn. Shock and what appeared to be genuine concern flashed across Marissa's face. I did not know about that. I swear, Andrew, whatever you think of me, I would never let anyone hurt the kids. Maybe not intentionally, Andrew allowed, but you brought dangerous elements into their lives. Marissa, the sooner you extricate yourself from Bryce and his business, the safer our children will be. Marissa nodded slowly, clutching the folder to her chest. Thank you for the warning. I do not deserve it, but I appreciate it. As she turned to leave, Andrew called after her. Marissa, the attempt to frame me for vandalizing your car, the false police report that stops now, or I would not hesitate to use everything in that folder against you. Marissa's expression hardened briefly, then collapsed into resignation. That was not my idea. Bryce thought it would help our custody case. She shook her head. I'll make sure it stops. The next morning, Andrew was at the shop early, trying to catch up on work that had been neglected during the custody drama. The bay doors were still closed. The open sign unlit as he tinkered with a stubborn fuel pump on a regular customer's truck. The sound of the front door's bell jerked his attention away from the engine. He was not expecting customers for another hour. We're not open yet, he called, wiping his hands on a rag as he stepped into the reception area. To his surprise, it was not a customer but Officer Vance, accompanied by a man in plain clothes who carried himself with unmistakable authority. Andrew Vance greeted him, expression uncharacteristically serious. This is Detective Harris from the Financial Crimes Unit. He needs to ask you some questions. Andrew felt a flutter of unease. What about? Detective Harris stepped forward. We're reinvestigating some suspicious financial transactions connected to Flex Fitness LLC. Your name has come up in our investigation. My name? Andrew echoed, genuinely confused. There appear to be several joint accounts under your name and Marissa Keller's that have received substantial transfers from companies we believe are involved in money laundering, Harris explained. We need to clarify your involvement, if any. Andrew's mind raced. Were these the accounts Wes had mentioned, the ones that should have been closed during the divorce but remained active? Those accounts should have been closed months ago, Andrew said carefully. My ex-wife handled most of our financial matters during our marriage. After we separated, I opened new individual accounts. Harris nodded, making notes. We'd like you to come down to the station to make a formal statement. Nothing to worry about at this point. We're just gathering information. The phrase "at this point" was not lost on Andrew. I should probably call my lawyer. That's you're right, Harris confirmed. Though I should mention we're also looking at Bryce Maddox and your ex-wife as persons of interest in this investigation. Any cooperation you can provide would be helpful in clarifying everyone's roles. If the police were already investigating Flex Fitness, that meant Inez's reporting had gotten results even before publication. And if they were looking at Marissa and Bryce as persons of interest, he needed to make sure his own involvement or lack thereof was crystal clear. I'll come with you now, he decided. But I'm still calling my lawyer to meet us there. 2 hours later, Andrew sat in an interview room at the police station. Patricia Wells beside him as he answered Detective Harris questions about his financial history with Marissa. So to be clear, Harris summarized. You restating that you had no knowledge of these accounts remaining active after your separation. Nor did you authorize any transactions through them. That's correct. Andrew confirmed. The first I heard about these accounts still being open was from my accountant Wesley McCoy, who discovered them while helping me prepare financial evidence for my custody case. Harris exchanged glances with Vance, who had been observing silently from the corner. Mr. Callahan, are you aware that your ex-wife came to the station early this morning with similar claims? She stated that she was unaware of the true nature of the transactions and that Mr. Maddox had her sign documents without explaining their purpose. Andrew's surprise must have shown on his face. I had no idea she'd spoken to you. She also provided some rather interesting documentation regarding Mr. Maddox's business practices. Harris continued, documentation that appears to match some of what your accountant discovered. So Marissa had decided to cooperate with the police. Andrew was not sure whether to be relieved or skeptical of her sudden turn toward honesty. What happens now? Andrew asked. We continue our investigation. Harris replied. Based on the information provided by you, Ms. Keller and other sources, we re-executing a search warrant at Flex Fitness today. Depending on what we find, there may be arrests forthcoming. Patricia spoke up. My client has been fully cooperative. I trust this clarifies his non-involvement in any illegal activities. For now, Harris allowed, though we may have follow-up questions as the investigation progresses. Later that evening, after dinner, Andrew sat his children down in the living room. Taryn had tactfully made herself scarce, heading out to pick up dessert to give them privacy. I need to talk to you both about something important. Andrew began, choosing his words carefully. You know how Mom and I have been fighting in court about where you live? Both children nodded solemnly. Well, there's been a new development. The police are investigating Bryce's business because they think he might have been doing some illegal things. And because Mom was involved with Bryce, they re-asking her questions too. Is Mom go to jail? Lyndon asked, his eyes wide. I do not know, buddy. Andrew answered honestly. She's talking to the police and telling them what she knows, which is the right thing to do. She made some mistakes, but she's trying to fix them now. Ivy, perceptive as always, studied her father's face. Did you tell the police about Mom and Bryce? Andrew hesitated, then decided on complete honesty. Not directly, but I did help a newspaper reporter who was investigating Bryce's gym. And I warned Mom about what the reporter found so she could talk to the police herself. Why would you help Mom after what she did to us? Ivy asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Andrew reached out to take her hand. Because despite everything that's happened, she's still your mother. And because I believe it was the right thing to do. Ivy considered this, then nodded slowly, accepting his explanation if not fully understanding it. Will we still get to see Mom? Lyndon asked anxiously. I hope so. Andrew said, the judge will decide what happens next with your visits. But no matter what, I want you both to know that none of this is your fault. And both your mom and I love you very much. Later that night, Andrew's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Cautiously, he answered, Mr. Callahan, this is Detective Harris. I wanted to let you know that we've made an arrest in connection with the Flex Fitness investigation. Andrew sat up straighter. Bryce Maddox? Yes. He's been taken into custody on multiple charges, including money laundering, tax evasion, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. Given the extent of the evidence, we do not anticipate he'll be granted bail. Relief washed over Andrew. What about my ex-wife? Ms. Keller has agreed to cooperate fully with our investigation in exchange for consideration regarding potential charges. Based on the evidence so far, it appears she was more of an unwitting accomplice than an active participant in the criminal enterprise. So she would not be arrested. That will ultimately be up to the district attorney, Harris said. But her cooperation is significant, and the documentation she provided has been extremely helpful. Her attorney will be negotiating the terms of her cooperation agreement. After ending the call, Andrew sat in the quiet apartment, trying to process the day's events. Bryce was in custody. Marissa was cooperating with the police. The financial web that had entangled him for months was finally being untangled. His phone buzzed with a text message from Inez Dawson. Police raid at Flex Fitness today. Story's been moved up to tomorrow's edition. You might want to prepare the kids. That's going to be front page. The headline in the Thursday edition of the Boise Herald was exactly as attention-grabbing as Inez had warned. Local gym chain linked to drug money laundering. Owner arrested. The article detailed the police investigation into Flex Fitness, Bryce's arrest, and the alleged connection to drug distribution networks operating through the gym. Marissa was not mentioned by name, identified only as a female associate who was cooperating with authorities. Small mercies, Andrew thought as he read the piece at the kitchen table before the kids woke up. Inez had been thorough but responsible, focusing on the criminal enterprise rather than the personal drama. Still, anyone who knew of Bryce and Marissa's relationship would make the connection immediately that Andrew's phone had not stopped buzzing since 6 a.m. messages from friends, customers, even parents from the kids' school. He responded only to the most important ones, including a text from his mother. Saw the paper. Coming over for breakfast to help with the kids. Do not argue. Charlene arrived 20 minutes later, arms loaded with grocery bags. Figure we make pancakes, she announced. Kids should not have to face a day like this on empty stomachs. By the time Ivy and Lyndon emerged from their bedroom, the apartment was filled with the comforting smells of pancakes and bacon. Grandma, Lyndon exclaimed, immediately brightening. Are you making your special pancakes? With chocolate chips for you and blueberries for your sister, Charlene confirmed. After eating, as Andrew was helping Ivy pack her backpack for school, his phone rang with Patricia's number. Have you seen today's paper? She asked without preamble. Just finished reading it. What's happening with Marissa? She's negotiating a deal with the DA's office. Patricia explained. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. She'll likely face probation rather than jail time, assuming she follows through. Andrew felt a knot of tension release in his chest. Whatever Marissa had done, he had not wanted his children to face the trauma of having their mother incarcerated. What about our custody case? He asked. That's actually why I'm calling. Patricia said, her voice shifting to a more positive tone. Given recent developments, Marissa's attorney has reached out about a potential settlement. She's willing to agree to you having primary custody with her receiving regular visitation rights. Andrew sat down heavily on the couch. She's giving up the custody fight with her legal situation. Continuing to fight would be futile. Patricia explained. The judge has already seen evidence of her financial misconduct. And now with the criminal investigation, well, let's just say her position has weakened considerably. What kind of visitation are we talking about? Initially supervised. Given the circumstances, with a gradual transition to every other weekend and one evening during the week, all contingent on her compliance with whatever legal requirements come from the criminal case. It was more than Andrew had dared hope for primary custody of his children with Marissa still in their lives, but in a controlled, supervised way until she proved herself trustworthy again. After hanging up, Andrew found his mother watching him from the kitchen doorway. Good news? She asked, noting his expression. Marissa's agreeing to give me primary custody. He confirmed she'll have supervised visitation to start. Charlene nodded approval. Smart move on her part. Only way she could salvage anything at this point. She studied her son carefully. You do not look as happy as I'd expect. Andrew shrugged. I'm happy for the kid's sake. This is what's best for them. It's just not how I imagine winning, I guess. Winning is not always a parade in fireworks. Charlene observed. Sometimes it's just getting what you needed all along, even if the journey there was uglier than you expected. 3 weeks later, Andrew stood in front of the auto shop watching as the final touches were added to the new sign. Callahan and Son Auto Repair. The ensign was aspirational. Lyndon was only 7. After all, but the boy had been spending Saturday mornings at the shop learning to identify tools. And his enthusiasm for his father's work had been one of the few constants during the tumultuous past year. The shop itself had undergone a transformation with the first installment of Marissa's restitution payments. Andrew had been able to hire back his full-time mechanic and take on a part-time assistant. Business was picking up again, word of mouth, bringing in new customers as well as old ones returning. Looks good, came Wes's voice from beside him. The accountant had stopped by to drop off the latest financial projections that for the first time in over a year showed steady growth rather than decline. Better than good, Andrew agreed. It's a fresh start. Wes nodded toward the folder he'd handed over. The numbers back that up. At this rate, you'll be completely out of debt within 18 months. And the business will be more profitable than before. I could not have done it without your help, Andrew said sincerely. Wes waved away the thanks. Just doing what friends do. Besides, I got a great story out of it. How often does not accountant get to help crack a money laundering case? They shared a laugh, the camaraderie between them having deepened through the shared ordeal. How are things with Marissa? Wes asked as they walked back inside the shop. Better than expected, Andrew admitted. The supervised visits are going well. The kids look forward to seeing her. And she's been different. More like her old self. Before everything went sideways. People can change when they have to, Wes observed. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to see the truth. Maybe Andrew allowed. I'm not counting on miracles. But for the kid's sake, I'm glad she's making an effort. The bell over the door jingled as Taryn entered, accompanied by Ivy and Lyndon fresh from school. Lyndon immediately ran to Andrew, backpack bouncing as he launched into an excited account of his day. And then Ms. Peterson said my science project was the best in the class. And I told her that you helped me with the experiment part. But I did all the writing myself. And she said that's exactly how science is supposed to work, with people helping each other figure things out. Andrew smiled, ruffling his son's hair. That's great, buddy. I knew you'd knock it out of the park. Ivy approached more sedately. But her eyes were bright with news of her own that I got the part in the school play. I'm going to be the lead fairy in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Congratulations. Andrew enveloped her in a hug. I knew you could do it. Later that evening after dinner at Charlene's house. The Sunday tradition now more important than ever. Andrew sat on the back porch watching as Lyndon and Ivy played with the old tire swing hanging from the oak tree. The same tree that had shaded their childhood home now offered its branches to their grandma's yard, a symbol of continuity amid change. Charlene joined him, passing him a beer as she settled into the adjacent chair. Penny, for your thoughts. Andrew took a sip before answering. Just thinking about how much has changed in a year. How close I came to losing them. But you did not, Charlene pointed out. You fought back, Andy. You did not let her take what mattered most. It was not just me fighting, Andrew acknowledged. I had help. Lots of it. Charlene snorted softly. That's what family does. We fight for each other. She watched the children playing for a moment. You know what I see when I look at those two? I see your strength, your resilience, the way you never give up on what matters. Andrew felt a lump form in his throat. I learned that from you, Mom. Damn right you did. Charlene agreed with a chuckle. And now they relearning it from you. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the yard, Andrew watched his children, truly his, now in legal custody as well as in heart, and allowed himself to feel without reservation the victory he achieved. Not just the custody arrangement or the financial recovery, but the deeper triumph of preserving what mattered most, his relationship with his children, his integrity, his ability to trust and be trusted. Marissa had taken much from him: money, time, the life he thought they were building together. But she had not taken his determination or his moral compass. And in the end, those had proven more valuable than anything else. SIV call for him to watch her acrobatic dismount from the tire swing. Andrew set aside his beer and rose to join his children in the fading daylight, fully present in this moment of hard-won peace.